It's complex, varied, gooey, and delicious. It's something we enjoy in many of our favorite foods. But do you really know where cheese comes from? On this field trip, we'll journey through the process that it takes to turn milk into that important ingredient we all must absolutely have on our pizza, cheese.
Field Trip is made possible by Cooperative Extension Service at New Mexico State University and by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.
Did you know on average that Americans eat over ½ a pound of cheese per person each week? And it's no secret that cheese is one of America's favorite foods, but how it's made is a mystery to most. Making cheese is a multi-step process that involves farming for feed, animal care, milking, cheese production, packaging, retail, and ultimately you, the consumer.
What cheese adds is, my friend in Panama told me, he says el sabor, the flavor. It adds an additional flavor to every meal. It also adds mystery to a meal because people are always wondering, what cheese are we using?
The relationship with food and cheese is beyond a relationship. Cheese is probably, if not the most important, it's in the top 2 or 3 for the ingredients. When I create a dish, I think about what kind of cheese is going to enhance it. It's a very important ingredient.
It just enhances everything. You just can't have anything without cheese on it.
Very nice. Very delicious, yes.
Cheese is an ancient food, and its origin is somewhat of a mystery. Throughout time, distinct cheese types and flavors have developed in various regions spanning the globe. Traditional methods of cheese making are still used today, but innovations in technology have opened the doors to large-scale production for commercial cheese making.
This particular process produces very consistent quality. We process approximately 7 million pounds of milk per day, and whenever you put that into a little bit more of a quantity that people can get their heads around, this is about 140 tankers of milk per day, and realizing that a tanker holds about 50,000 pounds of milk, and we process that milk into approximately 50,000 pounds of cheese per hour per day.
In order to supply large amounts of milk for cheese production, a dairy will use certain breeds that produce the best milk. Some of these breeds include Holstein, Jersey, and Brown Swiss.
We have predominantly Holstein cows. They're the big black and white cows. They came here, I think, in the 1840s from Holland. They give a lot of milk. We also have Jerseys, a little smaller frame cow. They came here around the same time. They came from the island of Jersey off the coast of England. They give a little less milk, but a little more fat, a little more protein. So they're used predominantly for making of ice cream and cheese and other hard products from dairy. The Swiss cows, they're not as common. They're real hardy. In fact, years and years ago, they used to be kind of a dual-purpose cow, a cow that was made for milk and also made for meat. We've been pretty much a purebred along straight breed lines. There's some more crossbreeding going on in America than there used to be.
The health and well-being of a dairy cow is essential in producing great milk. Veterinarian care, hoof care, nutrient-rich feed are all a part of a dairy cow's daily routine.
RFID stands for radio frequency identification, and what it means for us is a more accurate way to identify the cows It's more accurate and it's a more permanent form of identification. They hope to use it in the future to tie to a USDA database to help tracking of the animals. Using technology, we're able to assure top quality milk leaves our farm. If we don't take good care of the cow, then we don't have a good product to supply to the consumer.
Feeding a dairy cow is like feeding an athlete. They eat the equivalent of 206 baked potatoes a day. What cows eat determines how much milk they produce.
When a cow calves, she in nature is going to feed that calf, and the calf is small, but when it grows, it's going to need more milk. So a cow has what we call a lactation curve, which means that she's going to start off with a minimal amount of milk and then increase her milk production to resemble what she would be feeding that calf in nature while it was growing. And so we try to mimic that in nutrition, and what we try to do is to start her off with a ration that's going to get her on track with that lactation curve and get her up to peak milk, and which means that we need to increase, one, the amount of feed, but also the concentration of the energy and the protein in that feed. And it really is like feeding an athlete and making sure that there's adequate energy, protein, and minerals in that ration to make sure that she produces that amount of milk.
In order to meet the nutritional needs of the dairy cows, dairy farmers grow their crops to supply feed for the dairies. In return, dairy farmers use the waste that the cows produce to fertilize their crops. It's in the best interest of the dairy farmer to make the most out of its resources. Water conservation plays an important role in the relationship between dairies and growers.
We use our water 3 to 5 times basically. We use it first to cool the milk, then we use it to in the cleaning of the process of the cows during milking, and then we collect all that water back, and then we use it to irrigate the crops. You know, we as dairymen, we all have a stake in water conservation and best management practices using our water multiple times.
Dairy farmers are extremely dedicated to their work. Most are family businesses, so it's common to find generations of family members working at the same farm.
It's just a family lifestyle that I grew up wanting my kids to have the same thing. And you know, he's shown interest. He just wants to be a dairyman just like Dad after he gets through playing baseball. So, you know, we spend many hours a day with our kids, multiple times a day. We get to learn about nature, learn about cattle, animals. It's a whole perspective that most city people don't get to learn in their lifetime, which I think that's a big advantage, and we get to raise our kids. We don't have daycare raising our kids.
To collect the milk that's needed to make cheese, dairy farmers are using the latest in technology. Milking parlors are designed to collect milk in a safe and efficient manner.
We milk about 3,000 cows. We milk these cows every 8 hours. Each cow produces about 75 pounds of milk, which equates to about 9 gallons of milk per day per cow.
Once the cows are loaded in the parlor, an operator applies disinfectant to each teat. After it sets long enough to kill any bacteria, another operator takes a milk sample to make sure it's normal. The teats are cleaned off, then the milking machine is applied. It takes about 12 minutes from the moment the cows are loaded and prepped in the parlor to when they're milked. The milk then travels through a stainless steel pipeline to a vat where it is filtered. After that, the milk goes through a cooling process.
This whole process, from the time it comes from the cow to the tank, is about a 60-second operation. It'll go from the body temperature of a normal cow is 101 degrees. And it'll go from the 101 degrees to 36 degrees in less than 1 minute, and it cools it down almost instantly.
The milk is then transported by truck to the cheese plant. Even now, the milk remains as pure as it was the moment it came from the cow, since it's never handled by human hands. Cheese manufacturers rely on dairies to help meet the consumer's demands. The process of making cheese begins once the milk is delivered to the cheese plant.
Whenever the milk comes in from the dairies, we start with testing. And we test for the presence of antibiotics, and we test for the presence of lactic acid. All the way through our processing, we test in a quality control lab environment. When the milk is offloaded after it's tested, then it goes through our pasteurization process. And in that pasteurization process, the milk is heated up and it goes into cheese vats. In our cheese vat process, we add culture and rennet, which starts that whole coagulation process. And from there, we separate the whey, and then we bring in the curds to the salting belt. And on that salting belt, we add salt, and then we wash it off with a little bit of water. And from that particular part of the process, it goes into our cheese towers. And it's blown using a gravity type process. And from there, it is blown into blocks that are produced in like 40 and 640 pound blocks of cheese. We manufacture American style cheddar, Monterey Jack, pepper jack, and Colby. And we ship those 40 and 640 pound blocks not only nationally but internationally as well. This particular process produces very consistent quality. We work on building consistent product. We work on making sure that our processes rely on quality control checks, and that the product that we produce is one of the best that we can produce for our customers and in turn for their customers as well.
Around the world, there are cheeses made with milk from animals that are common to specific regions. Did you know that cheese can be made from moose, water buffalo, camel, and even yak? Although most cheese in the U.S. is made from cow's milk, there are a lot of variety of cheeses made from goat's milk as well.
What we do is we make artisanal goat cheeses. Most people think of goat cheese as just a soft chev. We do that in several flavors. But then we also do the farmhouse cheddar, a chili cheddar. We have a specialty cheese we call La Mancha, which is our Manchego cheese. We took a Spanish sheep milk cheese and developed it to work for the goat milk. With any kind of cheese, if your animals are healthy, well-fed, tended right, their body will produce a richer, sweeter milk. Our breeds of goats are known to be the real rich ones. We raise La Manchas and Nubians, and they're like the Jersey cows of the goat industry. Goats are high producers, will produce almost 2 gallons a day. And that's quite a bit considering they only weigh about 120 pounds. My son started this, he got into it as a 4-H project. And people loved the cheeses we were making, and we decided to go ahead and grow and go grade A. And we've been grade A now for 5 years.
Grade A means that the cheese is produced in a facility that meets the U.S. Department of Agriculture's requirements for quality and sanitation.
We started just with some home recipes and a few cheese books. And then we went to Vermont 4 years ago to a specialty cheese school there. And then a couple years ago, they had a short course at Las Cruces. And we went down there to Mexico State and picked up a few more tips there. We still stay with the old style. We're doing small, like 40-gallon batches, so that we have time when we make a wheel of cheese, it's hand-turned and worked with. And a lot of the cheese making is a lot of it just like your wine making. It's working with your cheeses, your temperatures, and developing your own types of product. The soft cheeses and the chevs you can use for your cooking, spreads. The hard cheeses like our cheddars you can grate and use for a lot of things. When you try your different cheeses, just like any standard recipe you have, it'll give it a different flavor and touch to it.
100 years ago, all the cheeses were made as artisan or farmstead cheeses. The difference between artisan and farmstead are that artisan cheeses are made with an open vat in small quantities. And then there's the farmstead cheeses, where they actually grow the cows and milk the cows, and it may be goat's milk, and then make the cheese right on the same farm. And it's a unique heritage. And it's one of the areas that worldwide chefs are looking for sustainability and for uniqueness in the product that they get.